So I'm in my school's D&D campaign. It's pretty fun. We have 10 players in our group, including me. It's been pretty fun so far. However, there is one guy that's getting on my nerves quite a bit. He is the wizard of our party, and I'll call him Peter. Peter is a really creative guy in my opinion, but I'm pretty sure he has a case of main character syndrome. Isn't too bad, but sometimes he tells my cleric what to do as if it was his own character. He insists that my cleric should do things his way since his story is more important. This really pissed me off because I would argue that everyone's character is just as important, but he's making the whole campaign about himself and I dislike it. He would say that we have to get to this place because it's important to his backstory and we have to get there now. I don't know if it's just me, but it's really difficult for me to find joy in this if he wants to make it all about himself. He spent a long time creating his backstory, yeah, but so have I, and other people in the campaign too. It's not fair for everyone if the campaign has to go his way. Peter even got mad when me and my boyfriend's characters romanced each other, and we were going for a relationship that was bad for both of our characters, since it was just more interesting for our roleplay. And suddenly, he's mad because our romance isn't going the way he thought it would go, even though we both agreed we'd do this for our character. Stop, V, Judy, look, I have some notes, I have some constructive criticism, alright? This romance, it has some room for improvement, okay? We're gonna need to take it back from the top. There will be no sucking titties for you today, alright? We've got some things that we've got to... I feel bad for feeling so many negative emotions towards him, but it's getting 10 times more difficult to deal with him after he had a bad response to me coming out as bisexual. Bro, what did he say to you? I will beat him up for you. We stand by the bisexual here. Yeah, I don't know what to do other than try to suck it up and deal with it. Thank you for reading this, by the way. Look, if this is a school game, I don't know who's running this club, but talk to them. I never ran a tabletop gaming club, but I was a speech and debate coach, and this kind of thing with the kids that I was overseeing, no, not tolerated ever at all. Talk to the person running this and tell them to get off their butt. Hi Crispy, I've been enjoying your content for a while now, and I'm so glad the algorithm saw fit to bring your channel to my attention. I'm glad that you're here as well. I've hemmed and hawed a bit about whether or not to send in the story because, as many of your videos show, it could have been so much worse, but perhaps if you choose to read this, it'll give me some catharsis. Apologies for the length, I've tried my best to summarize. A little background. I'm possibly older than a lot of your viewers. I turned 45 in a few days, but I only got into D&D and TTRPGs in the past 6 years or so, and it's only within the last year and a half that I've actively started playing sessions. I joined this game in January after my previous D&D game, Horde of the Dragon Queen, ended after only a few sessions thanks to player attrition. Also, maybe because Horde of the Dragon Queen is straight dog water! Until the day I die. Oh crap on this book, I swear to God. The game was on Start Playing Games, so it was pay to play. They were looking for 1 or 2 more players and had a time slot that worked for me. The game listed was set in Drakenheim and said it was urban fantasy, high roleplay, very collaborative, and the GM had a lot of good reviews. I talked with the Game Master over Discord and I sat in on sessions. Everyone seemed like a lot of fun and there was a ton of roleplay going on, so I created an NB Goblin Barbarian character. I gave them a fairly basic backstory and motivation. They've come to the city of Drakenheim because there are legendary monsters there and it's their destiny to slay them, bring back their heads, and bring glory to their people. The game is over Discord with no cameras. Owlbear Rodeo in D&D Beyond. Respect for the Owlbear Rodeo. They are the people who made Kenku, my beloved. I mean, I still use Foundry for my VTT because nothing can beat pure perfection. That's still pretty good. The characters involved when I joined are the Game Master, very nice, but ended up being part of the problem due to enabling other players' bad behavior. Eladrin Bardlock, the problem, optimized to hell and back. He had a +8 to one of his weapons at level 3. Long-time IRL friend of the Game Master. Shifter Bloodhunter, very nice person, extremely sweet. Shadar Kai, Druid Rogue, also a good person, fun to roleplay with. Asamar Cleric, great person, no problems at all. One of the people who I know for a fact didn't enjoy what went down. One last important note before I get into the meat is that the Game Master allowed people to roll either on D&D Beyond so everyone can see the results, or roll their dice off camera and have it be honor system. Myself and Cleric always rolled on D&D Beyond. Bloodhunter, Druid, Rogue, and Bardlock would roll off camera.
Hey dude, have you rolled up your stats yet? I rolled a natural 20! You rolled a nat 20 on a bunch of d6s? I mean, I rolled, all 6s! All 6s? Bro, you roll multiple 6s per stat. I mean, like, that's really, really lucky. Seems legit.
The others were several sessions in by the time I joined, but the party was pretty standard for this adventure. Our GM is all about us setting up what we want to do and where we want to go within this huge city. We take jobs from different factions within the city, we get in skirmishes with rival parties or different monsters, we meet people, we have downtime, etc. My barbarian got a chance to participate in the fighting pits, winning some money and getting some notoriety. We do a job for a bunch of dwarves to protect their mining claim, and I get into a situationship with one of them. Ordinary stuff, lots of fun. Do you just ordinarily get in situationships with short queens and kings? I mean, flex. I respect it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of roleplay. It was all very lighthearted too. Given that there was a lot of factions in the game and all of them have their own aims, our party does some sneaky dealings. Mostly in the vein that we tell Faction A that we're working for them while we're spying for Faction B. Faction B thinks we're gonna steal an artifact for them so we can sell it, when in actuality we already have the artifact and we're keeping it for ourselves. Faction C thinks we're working with Faction B to take them down from the inside, etc. Kind of twisty, and honestly, not my favorite part of the gameplay, but other people were really enjoying it. I got plenty of chances for my barbarian to hit things hard, so I was happy. The only hiccup during this time is the dice rolling. Druid, Rogue, and Bloodhunter seem to be honest in what they're rolling. They get as many failures as crits. They miss checks by this much. They do a tiny amount of damage when it would have been cooler to do more, etc. Bardlock does not. Bardlock, in the entire time I played this game, I do not think he ever rolled under a 15. I mentioned how he was crazy optimized, which is one thing, but he was consistently hitting attacks and checks and saving throws by 20 and over. A few times near the beginning of my time there, some of us called him out on it, and he said he was just lucky. The GM, having been his friend for so long, assured us that she trusted Bardlock and knew that he wouldn't be lying, and actually, it kind of hurts his feelings when we imply that he might be. At the same time, though, whenever he's asked to roll on D&D Beyond so we can see his luck in action, he just does it. Alright, lock him up! That's enough for me, man! Again, the rest of the game is a lot of fun and is going great. So even though Bardlock's luck is annoying, especially since his high initiatives and attacks mean that my barbarian hasn't gotten a chance to land the killing blow on any creature so far, I chalk it up to the price of playing the game. It could be worse, right? I mean, there's a literal price of playing this game because it's a paid D&D game, but sure, babe. Okay, sure. It could be worse, right? We're on a job and the party gets split. Myself and Druid are on a side quest. Bardlock, Bloodhunter, and Cleric are on another. Bardlock tells Bloodhunter that he trusts her enough to tell her the truth about why he's in Drakenheim. He's a prince from a land far across the sea, and he wants to rule Drakenheim. Cleric is already recruited to his cause, and now he wants Bloodhunter because she is strong and capable. However, she refuses to bend the knee and join him. Then, he has to kill her because nobody can know the truth and live. Bloodhunter does refuse, and the two of them fight. Cleric, who seems both surprised and out of character that this is happening, does her absolute best to save and heal Bloodhunter, but she ends up dying? Bardlock tells Cleric to cut up her body and dispose of it, which he does, but secretly, he keeps her hand and hopes he can cast True Resurrection to bring her back. Oh, that's what Thing is in the Addams Family! And that is also a really awesome character idea. Feel free to steal that. Please keep in mind, they did all this at the table. They didn't go into a private chat to play this out, so the rest of the players had to sit with the knowledge that Bardlock, who had until this point had kind of been our de facto leader, is actually homicidal. But as characters, we're supposed to have no clue.
Hey guys, I was looking for a druid. Does anyone know where our... news, gang. It looks like Druid has decided to take the holidays off and spend time with their family. Dude, I just heard you yell, "Die, Druid." And also, why are you holding a skull? Where did that even... What skull? The skull that you're holding right... What skull? Yeah, never mind.
When the party is reunited, Bardlock and Cleric tell the rest of us that Bloodhunter was attacked and eaten by trolls. Bloodhunter rolls up a new character, a Drow Warlock. For Drowlock's part, she doesn't seem upset about her other character dying, and at the time I figured, okay, well, if she's not bothered, then maybe I shouldn't be either. It made me very uncomfortable, that level of inter-party betrayal, but I didn't say anything, which I realized was entirely my own fault, and I should have spoken up right away. A few weeks later, in real time, a couple of days in game I think, Bardlock and Cleric pulled Druid and Rogue off. This time, they go into a private chat, so we don't know what happened. When Bardlock and Cleric return without Druid, they tell us that Druid went to go and find the rest of his family. He's got that nice bard Alfira right there with him, baby. I actually saved Alfira, killed some, random dragonborn, so this joke doesn't really work, but still. Druid rolls up a fighter character. Cleric pulls my barbarian aside for a private chat and reveals the truth about what happened to Bloodhunter to my character, and that Bardlock is dangerous and cannot be trusted. Cleric also tells me that Bardlock has other minions working for him. One is a Leonin paladin. Cleric seems genuinely upset with what's happened, both in and out of character, saying that he only joined up with Bardlock's crusade because Bardlock promised he'd help the cleric be a great healer, but he doesn't want this to happen. We go back to doing this or that job, sometimes above table we make jokes about Bardlock killing us or lying to us, and the player always laughs it off. His character is clearly always planning things in the background, because when asked what he's doing during downtime or travel, he'll just say, "I sent you a message, Game Master," or "Character name isn't there, you don't know where he is, or when he left." Good to see that so many people are still setting their good old self-awareness stat to 0. Then, last week, around the middle of the session, out of nowhere, the Leonin Paladin confronted Fighter and challenged him to a duel in the fighting pits. This was completely unexpected. None of us had any interaction with this NPC up until just now. At the end of the session, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that we were all going to go to the fire pits and see this happen. And when the session was over, Bardlock and GM kept making comments about interesting things coming up and how excited they were. In the time between this session and the next, my wife and I had a serious talk about finances and decided that we're cutting a lot of expenses, especially once we found out that our rent is increasing in January. One of the things I offered to stop was my gaming, and my wife said she knows that's one of my self-care things. I shouldn't have to. I thought about it some more and decided that at least I was going to drop this Sunday D&D game. It's the most expensive of my games, and honestly, I just wasn't having fun anymore. I told the DM ahead of time, so she was aware it was going to be my last game, though I didn't tell her the entire reason I was leaving. I just blamed the finances. The session starts. I don't remember all the details of what went down because I was so upset, but I'll try to get them right. We're all at the fighter pits. Bardlock is making jokes about how there's a surprise here for all of you. GM hands control of this paladin over to Bardlock. Fighter goes first, tries to throw a net and cast catapult, fails. Bardlock and Paladin chuckle and say, "He's a paladin. He's got saving throws in the bag." Which is, yeah, kind of true. They do have saving throws in the bag. Paladin attacks. 5th level smite. All of us player characters are level 6, by the way, or at least we're supposed to be. But I have my doubts about Bardlock. Damage is crazy high, at least 20 points above Fire's max, and he goes down. For reference, if you don't play D&D 5th edition, in order to have a 5th level smite, you need to be level 17. So yeah, tad over leveled. GM asks if he's going to do his second attack, even though Fighter is down and making death saving throws. He says yes. Drow Warlock casts Darkness in the Pit. Paladin uses True Sight and Devil Sight, takes a second attack, another insane amount of damage on the attack. Bardlock says, "You see Bardlock's image next to the rest of you, but then you hear his voice from the outside door saying, 'Well, it wasn't personal, but I always did hate his cooking.'" We try to follow, but Bardlock has cast Mislead, and even with my increased movement speed and boots of striding and springing, I don't move fast enough to catch him. Then things got kinda confusing, because as I said, I was very upset at this point, nearly crying IRL. I was texting a friend about what was happening, and then Cleric and I were private messaging. I think some more of Bardlock's minions showed up just to jeer at us a bit before leaving us alone in the pit. Fighter was revived by an NPC and spirited off through Dimension Door due to a whole backstory thing that's not relevant. The rest of us, Cleric, Drow, Warlock, and myself, finally had a chance to properly respond. At this point, I've said I've had absolutely enough, so my Barbarian hands off a couple of their magic ups to their player characters, and with more than a little character bleed, I say, this isn't what I came here for, this isn't what I wanted, I can't do this anymore, this is awful. I had my character walk out, and this is where I acknowledge that I was a little more childish.
Yeah, I agree. Bard seems so cool and so epic. I don't know why anyone wouldn't like his character.
Kidding. Completely respect your decision. I disconnected from the call and left the server. The cleric messaged me right away to make sure I was okay, as did Fighter and Game Master. I sent the Game Master a long message a few days later, telling her the truth and apologizing both for how I acted at the end and also for my own part not saying anything previously. According to her, that night was also Bardlock's last game, and she had been working with him for a way to write him out. Fighter was in on this, as he had been wanting Bardlock to kill his character so he could bring his druid back. She now apologized for not communicating this better above table, and refunded my charge for the game. So, that's my horror story. If nothing else, it taught me that, hey, I didn't think I had a problem with PvP, but apparently I do. Especially when it's sprung on me and becomes the whole damn plot. Also, a lesson to me, I should speak up if something's bothering me. Thanks for reading. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I think this is an L on the DM and Bard's part. Obviously, Bardlock has some problems besides the final confrontation. I think having a character that is on their own, the villain of the party, the anti-hero who works on their own, that's just not very fun. Like, if you're constantly telling the party that you can't tell them what you're up to, that sucks. I'm not saying you can't do things without the party. Think about Caleb and Bo at the end of Critical Role. They're doing plenty of Eldritch Horror stuff on their own terms, but those things are shared with the other party members so that they can watch the story unfold, because that's fun and cool. The final confrontation being somewhat scripted is fine in my book, but the other players should be made aware when other people at the table are leaving. The fact you didn't know 2 people were bailing on the table is wild. That should absolutely be told to everybody. It would also act as a neat little disclaimer on this whole situation. I don't know why the DM didn't do that. Look, just in general, surprises are cool. Secrets are awesome. But if it gets into out-game stuff, make sure to clarify above table, because your secrets aren't worth losing your game. Hey Crispy, I've been loving your videos as background audio while working or drawing. I wanted to submit a bit of a lighthearted horror story. This Halloween, I decided to dip my toes into the water of DMing for the first time and run a short D&D horror one-shot for my friends, as thanks to them being great DMs and party members. The general idea was that I was Saw 2 meets Squid Games. I've seen Squid Game, never watched Saw. Does that make me uncultured, or is that like normal? I don't know. Anyway, that's not really important for the story. I ran it with 2 different groups, and after the first group, they said they had a ton of fun, but combat could be a bit stronger. See, Group 1 had 2 people drop out at the last second due to emergencies, so I made the enemies a bit weaker, but everyone rolled super well and ended combat against the Necromancer boss in 3 turns. Oof. I am the all-powerful Lich King!
A few moments later.
I took their words of advice and gave the final boss more hit points, changed the skeleton minions to ghouls, and then let him summon ghouls as a layer action at the beginning of the combat turns. The second group's turn came around, and I had everything set up, ready to go. They made their way through the murder mansion. As combat began, everything was looking pretty good. They weren't just cutting down the boss immediately, and there was more of a challenge. Then, the dice realized I was having a good time attacking my friends and decided to start rolling like garbage. My Necromancer cast Cloud Kill, and the Wizard managed to counterspell it with a good roll. Okay, that's fine. I have more AoE spells. Counterspelled again. Then, it was the Ghoul's turn, and they were summoned via the layer action.
across 5 separate ghouls. I rolled a 6 into a 4 into a 10 and then into a 12. Then on the last ghouls combat, I rolled a nat 20. I was so happy I was finally able to do some damage, but then the bard cast silvery barbs and I rolled an 8. See, that was your mistake. Silvery barbs to die! I then rolled an 8. I have never rolled so poorly in the entire D&D career I've had, which is albeit short. During the entire 5 to 6 turn combat, I think my ghouls and my necromancer only landed about 5 or so attacks in total. It was supposed to be a difficult combat, a fight to the death, and my rolls made it a joke. While it was humiliating for my dice to betray me, I'm glad that my friends loved the setting and had a great time with the one-shot, and I'm never gonna use ghouls again in combat. Hey, the ghouls didn't do anything wrong. Justice for the ghouls, alright? Give them some love. First and foremost, I want to say that if your party are okay with certain spell restrictions on really, really powerful spells, I don't think it's a crime to do so. Counterspell, silvery barbs, hell, even spare the dying, they're not really in my games because of the homebrew rules I have, making them all fairly irrelevant. And my players are okay with that. If you don't want to balance around outlier spells like this, that's okay. Just talk to your party about it in advance. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything wrong with having an easy boss fight. I do think that if it's the final boss of like a huge arc, or even the campaign, that might be a bit lame. But a one-shot, or just like a mini-boss, I mean, hey, it's all good. I mean, for some players, even a complete stomp would be pretty memorable. Hi Crispy, your last video reminded me of something that happened a couple years ago. That is the reason I don't play with this DM anymore. My last video is probably no longer my last video. I'm sorry it takes me so long to get to these horror stories, okay? She is still very much a good friend of mine, but this really sank the tabletop RPG ship for me. We were playing D&D. Everyone's looking for information on where to sell, buy, or trade a beholder eye that one of us found. The DM had an NPC direct us to a bar and ask for a specific drink. When we get there, the bartender led us to an underground market that was like a black market. Didn't think too much about it, just thought it was funny since we had no clue this was a black market. While wandering the stalls and tents, we find a shop run by a woman who was completely naked. I'm uncomfortable with this, but don't make much of a fuss. It wasn't the first time the DM put a naked woman casually in front of her players, or fellow players, the time she played a nudist. Look, I'm all for unrealistic Dungeons & Dragons, but like, only so much suspension of disbelief. How do you not get stabbed? I just had my character ignore the naked woman tent. Unfortunately, the tent was where we needed to go. Once we got there, the DM describes the stuff for sale and then pauses, messaging all of us. I don't know what the other players got, but I remember my message was something like, hey, what's your character's sexuality? The woman has a spell active that if you're attracted to women, you have to buy something from her tent. No save. I blanked really hard. I originally wanted to play a bisexual character to expand my role-playing, but I've been burned by so many DMs using sexuality like this. This DM in this moment now being one of them. I just sighed and said my character was asexual. The min-maxing strategy works!
I must find a way to defeat my dungeon master, to leave all their encounters in ruins. That's it!
Busted combo in D&D. Be asexual. Boom! You don't thirst for any type of genitalia, which means you can never be charmed.
1 hour later.
Come to my side. You are no match for my charms. Ha! Foolish seductress. Little do you know that while you partied, I became asexual. We have free sealed Lego sets.
When the session was over, and 2 party members now had 100 less gold, the DM messaged me saying, sorry, I know you don't like sexual things. I forgot. After that, I didn't feel comfortable playing with her as the DM, and eventually left the game. It's a little thing, but it was a big deal to me. And I think that's completely reasonable. Is this the worst sexual thing we've read about? Hell no. But look, some people just aren't comfortable with intimate topics, especially when their control is taken away. I mean, look, saying the words no saving throw in any sort of intimate situation is just like, come on, man. That is just a road to a disaster. Look, clearly this DM has a thing for nudity, and that's okay. That's completely her prerogative. But enjoy that with people who are going to enjoy it with you. Don't spring it randomly on your friends. Guess what? That's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy this episode of a new series where I talked about some problematic figures from the tabletop gaming space. It was a lot of fun. You guys loved it. It's linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, cursed Bardlock, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, then like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.
I rolled an actual 20.